by popular request, I'm going to be doing a quick video tutorial on how to use a belt sander to sharpen a sword. I'm starting off with a 20 micron belt, which is about 500 grit. It's going to take off some slight imperfections, things like little nicks, little scuffs and scratches, and it's going to establish the base edge. After I'm done with that, after I establish the base edge, I'm going to move on to a 9 micron belt. It's about 1200 grit. It's real smooth, and what that'll do is that'll polish it out, make the edge very fine and very sharp. And then when I'm finally done with that, I'm going to move on to a leather strop. I'm going to put some, I've got some compound that goes on it, and I'm going to run that, and that'll be the final polish that will make the sword just razor stupid sharp. I'm really only going to be sharpening from here to here. I'm going to be stopping before the yokote. This is especially important if your sword has a real geometric yokote. You don't want to grind that off and make it go away. It's an aesthetics thing. Because the thing is with the belt sander, the tip of your sword is especially fragile and in danger of being damaged by the belt sander, because there's very little metal there, and it's very easy for the belt sander and all its power and glory to just rip that tip off and leave you with a squared off, rounded off little ugly chunk. So we're just going to stay away from the whole kisaki, the whole tip idea right now. We're not even going to mess with it. Okay, as you can see, like I said before, the belt flexes. So really, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this sword, and once it's running, and I'm just going to press the G on a Japanese sword. You call it the G, which is the area from this ridge line here down to the cutting edge. On a Western sword, it would be, just the face of the main bevel, the face of the blade, whatever you want to call it. But it's that part of the blade that goes from the ridge line, the edge of your fuller groove, whatever you got, that continues in one continuous plane down to your edge. Now, as most people know, these edges they're not just flat like the roof on a house. They're actually, convex, right? We want to preserve that. We don't want to flatten them out, which was what would happen if we had like a flat stone or something. We didn't do like a rocking technique. All right. Well, this is going to be a lot easier. It's going to leave that. It's going to leave that like that. And the way it's going to work is that slack right in there. I'm just going to push it against it, and that'll just maintain it right there. Okay. So I'm going to plug this sucker in, and we're going to get going. Okay, one thing you want to make sure you do is you want to make sure you keep moving at a nice steady rate, because you're worried about heat building up in the blade. With a 20 micron 500 grit belt, not much problem with that. Very little danger of actually building up heat. But you want to keep it moving. Move it at a nice steady rate, because if you sit in one place, this belt keeps moving. It keeps sanding in the same place, so you'll get a low spot. So you want to keep moving at a nice steady rate. And do the same number of passes on each side. So I go 1, 2, then I flip it, 1, 2. Alright? And I can feel this getting a little sharper already. Got a little bit of a nick here that I need to work out. You may get something that looks a little bit like a secondary bevel. It's not something to worry too much about. It'll polish out, it'll straighten out. It's really not much of a change. It's not really not any change in the geometry. You can feel that it isn't. It's just a little more polished. When you want to change grits to go to higher grits, just follow the directions on your belt sander to change the belts. Some models are a little bit different, but the owner's manual will tell you how to do it. Just follow those instructions to the letter. You'll be all right. So I'm going to change grits now. I'm just going to do the same thing with the 9 micron and then the leather strop. One thing to be aware of is what's called the wire edge. You're not going to be able to see it in the camera, but basically what you're going to see is right here along the edge, on the very, very, very edge of the blade, there'll be a little bit of a reflection, just a little bit of a shiny spot right on the edge. It looks kind of ragged. What that is, when the belt is taking the metal off, it'll curl it over just a teeny tiny bit like that or like that, and you can flop back and forth. Okay, with the lower grit belts, we're not even worried about that. In fact, we want to get it all evenly lopped over to one side, and we do want to get it all evenly lopped over to the other side. That wire edge is a good indicator that you're actually sharpening it correctly. Okay. When you get to the higher grit belts, you start working it back and forth. Work one side then the other side. It'll break off, and then with the very higher grit belts and the leather strop at the very end, you'll actually sharpen the portion that broke off even a little bit further. But even if you just worked it like on a stone until that wire edge broke off, it would still be very, very sharp. That strop just gets it a little bit sharper. So watch for your wire edge. It'll be there. Most of the time it's so soft you can even run your thumb over it or a finger over it, like that or like that, and you can see it move. So that's how delicate that wire edge is. Okay, and that's fine. That's good. We want it that way because moving it back and forth will break it off and leave you a sharp edge. So that's something to look for. And if you don't get it, then maybe you need to continue on that belt until you get that. If you're working with like the 500 grit, because if you're not getting that, then you haven't brought your edge together. You're leaving a little bit of a flat spot. Okay, so that wire edge tells you when you've ground down enough to make it sharp.